All right, let's talk fat-burning foods. You know, the
Ah,
ones that supposedly torch calories like crazy.
right.
We wanted to see what the science actually says.
Yeah.
So we did a deep dive into this health podcast episode called
Oh, cool.
Fat-Burning Foods, What to Eat for Faster Results,
Makes
to
sense.
break down the facts.
Oh,
And turns out it's not as simple as just like eating a ton of hot peppers.
not quite that straightforward, no.
So no magic solutions, but maybe we can work smarter, not
Definitely.
harder when it comes to this stuff.
Absolutely.
One thing that really stood out in the podcast was all the talk about protein.
Oh, yeah, they were big on that.
Like they were seriously singing its praises.
And for good reason. It's not just for building muscles.
Oh, really?
It's also about how much energy your body uses to actually digest it.
Interesting.
So, like, digesting protein actually burns more calories than digesting carbs or fats.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Protein molecules, they're more complex. So your body's got to work harder to break them down.
So we're burning more calories just by digesting protein.
It's called the thermic effect of food.
That's pretty neat. So the podcast specifically mentioned lean protein, right?
Exactly. We're talking chicken breast, turkey, fish, eggs, all that good stuff.
Okay, makes sense.
For plant-based options, tofu and lentils are great too.
Gotcha.
The key here is that lean protein helps you keep that muscle mass while you're losing fat.
Oh, I see.
And that muscle is what keeps your metabolism going strong.
So it's like building a better calorie-burning machine from the inside out.
Yeah, you could say that.
Now, they also talked about green tea as a potential metabolism booster.
Oh yeah, green tea.
I've heard that before, but what's actually going on there?
So green tea has these compounds called catechins.
Okay.
And some types, like EGCG, have been studied for their potential to boost metabolism and increase something called fat oxidation.
Okay, fat oxidation. But break that down for me.
Sure. Basically, it's how your body breaks down fatty acids for energy. So think of it like your body taking stored fat and using it as fuel.
Like it's actually burning the fat for energy.
Exactly. And these catechins from green tea, they might help speed up that process, especially when you combine it with exercise.
So maybe swap out that sugary soda for green tea before hitting the gym.
That's the idea.
Smart.
Speaking of boosting things, the podcast also mentions spicy foods.
Ooh, I was hoping we'd get to that.
Yeah, so chili peppers, things like that.
I love adding some spice to my food.
It all comes down to a compound called capsaicin.
Capsaicin, that's what makes them hot.
Exactly. And it can slightly increase your body temperature.
Okay.
And that process, well, it requires a bit of extra energy.
Oh, interesting.
It's not a huge calorie burn,
Right.
but it's something.
Yeah, I've noticed that after eating something spicy, I feel a bit warmer.
You're probably sweating a bit too, right?
Yeah, it's like my body's working harder to process it.
Exactly. So we've got protein for building muscle and boosting metabolism, green tea to rev up that fat oxidation, and spicy foods to give us a little extra calorie burn.
Okay, what else made the list of these so-called fat-burning superstars?
Well, this one might not be as exciting, but whole grains.
Whole grains. I was thinking of them for like slow-release energy.
It all comes back to fiber.
Okay.
Whole grains like oats, quinoa, brown rice, we're packed with it.
Right.
And fiber helps keep your blood sugar levels stable.
Ah, so it's about avoiding those sugar crashes and cravings that make you overeat.
Exactly. It's all about creating a more balanced internal environment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
They're kind of like the unsung heroes of weight loss.
Interesting. All right, what about fruits and veggies?
Oh, absolutely. We got to talk about those.
I mean, we know they're good for us, but are there any that are especially helpful for fat burning?
The podcast talked a lot about grapefruit and berries.
Okay.
Low in calories, but high in fiber, so they keep you feeling full.
Yep, that makes sense.
And then there's leafy greens like spinach, kale, broccoli. Those are great for what's called volume eating.
Volume eating. What's that?
It means they fill you up without loading you up with tons of calories.
Ah, I see.
Think about a big salad takes up a lot of space on your plate, but it's not super high in calories.
Right, so you're eating a lot, but not overdoing it on the calorie front.
Exactly.
All right, we got to talk about fat itself.
Uh-oh, the big F word.
I know. For a long time it was the enemy, but now it's all about the good fats.
Right.
The podcast emphasized that healthy fats are actually essential.
They are. It's not about avoiding fat altogether. It's about choosing the right kinds.
But why are they so important? I'm still a little fuzzy on that.
It's all about balance.
Okay.
Healthy fats are super important for things like regulating your hormones
That's
and
right.
helping you feel full and satisfied after you eat.
Ah, so they contribute to that feeling of satiety, which can help us make healthier choices overall.
Exactly. And they talked about avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, all good sources.
Those are all delicious.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing portion control is still key.
Absolutely. They're packed with nutrients, but they're also calorie dense.
Makes sense.
So moderation is key.
Okay, last but not least, we got to talk about coffee.
Ah, yes, coffee, our faithful friend.
The podcast mentioned it can boost metabolism.
It's that caffeine. It can temporarily increase your metabolic rate.
Oh, wow.
So it basically revs up your system.
Interesting. So it's not just about the energy boost.
Well, some research even suggests that caffeine might help you burn more fat during exercise.
Oh, really? So timing that cup of coffee before a workout could be a strategic move.
Potentially, yeah. But don't think of it as a magic bullet.
Right. It's not like coffee alone will melt away the pounds.
It's about integrating it into a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly.
Exercise and a good diet are still essential.
All right. So we've got this whole arsenal of fat-burning foods, lean protein, green tea, spicy foods, whole grains, fruits and veggies, healthy fats, even coffee.
It's a pretty impressive lineup.
But how do we put it all together? How do we actually make these foods work for us in our daily lives?
That's where the practical tips come in. The podcast highlighted things like meal prepping.
Ah, meal prepping. Seems like a simple but effective way to stay on track.
It is, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
So we're not talking about restrictive diets or crazy meal plans.
Nope, it's about making small, manageable changes.
Makes sense.
Changes that fit into your life.
That's a great point. All right, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. It's all about creating a sustainable approach to healthy living.
And it's not just about weight loss. It's about supporting your overall well-being.
Absolutely.
So any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this part of the deep dive?
Don't get overwhelmed. Start small.
Okay.
Think about just one or two of these fat-burning foods that you could realistically add to your routine this week.
So instead of trying to change everything overnight, focus on small, manageable changes.
Exactly.
I love that. It's about empowering ourselves to make choices that support our journey
That's what it's all about.
to a healthier, happier us.
Absolutely.
We'll be back in a jiffy to keep digging into this fascinating world of fat-burning foods.
Looking forward to it.
Back again for more on those fat-burning foods.
Still going strong.
I think it's important to remember, we're not saying there are magic foods that'll just melt away fat.
All right, it's not about slapping a label on something.
It's more about understanding the science behind it all.
Definitely. How these foods actually interact with our bodies.
Like we talked about with protein.
Yeah, protein's a good one.
How it can help preserve muscle mass.
Absolutely. And that's not just about looking toned, it actually affects your metabolism too.
Oh, right. We talked about building that calorie-burning machine.
Exactly. So how does muscle play into that? Well, think of it this way. Muscle tissue, it's always active, even when you're resting.
So even when I'm just chilling on the couch.
Even then. And it burns more calories than fat tissue, even at rest.
Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing.
So the more muscle you have, the higher your resting metabolic rate, which means you're burning more calories throughout the day, even when you're not working out.
So like a passive calorie-burning strategy.
You could say that. And that's why getting enough protein is so important.
Especially when you're trying to lose weight.
Exactly. You want to make sure your muscles have what they need to grow and stay strong.
This is making me think about my workouts differently.
In a good way, I hope.
It's not just about hitting the gym. It's also about fueling my body properly to build that muscle and keep my metabolism up.
You got it. Okay, let's switch gears for a second, talk about fiber.
Okay, fiber.
We talked about how fiber-rich foods, especially whole grains, can help regulate blood sugar.
Right, right.
But how does that actually translate to losing fat? Well, it's all about those cravings we get, those energy crashes.
Yeah, those are the worst.
When your blood sugar spikes and then crashes, your body kind of freaks out.
It's like an emergency.
It wants quick energy. And usually that means sugary, high-calorie foods.
So that's why I always crave junk food when I'm feeling tired and sluggish.
Exactly. Those drops in blood sugar can trigger those intense cravings.
And those cravings can totally derail your efforts to eat healthy.
They can, but when you eat fiber-rich foods, they digest slower.
Okay.
And that leads to a more gradual release of glucose into your bloodstream.
So it's like a slow and steady energy release.
Now think of it like that.
Instead of that quick spike and crash.
Exactly. And that helps keep your energy level stable and those cravings at bay.
So fiber is like the key to keeping our blood sugar in check.
You could say that. It helps us make healthier choices throughout the day.
That makes so much sense. Okay, what about those spicy foods?
Spicy foods, oh yeah.
I'm still fascinated by how something like capsaicin can actually boost metabolism.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It temporarily increases your body temperature, and that process, called thermogenesis, uses energy.
So it's like turning up the heat inside our bodies, and that burns a few extra calories?
That's the idea. And some research suggests that capsaicin might also suppress appetite and reduce cravings.
So it's like a double whammy against those fat loss obstacles.
Exactly. A little extra help.
All right, what about caffeine? We talked about that too.
Ah, caffeine. It's a stimulant, so it can temporarily speed up your metabolism.
Makes sense.
And some studies show that it might even make your body burn more fat during exercise.
Wow, so timing that cup of coffee before a workout could be a good strategy.
It could be, but again, don't think of it as a magic solution.
Right, it's all about balance and a healthy lifestyle overall.
Exactly. You still have to put in the work.
You mentioned a holistic approach to fat loss, and I want to touch on sleep and stress management.
Oh, those are huge.
How do those fit into the equation?
When you don't get enough sleep, your body produces more of the stress hormone, cortisol.
Oh no, cortisol, that's not good.
And cortisol can actually encourage your body to store fat, especially around your belly.
Ugh, that's not what I want to hear.
I know, right? And it's not just cortisol. Lack of sleep messes with other hormones, too.
Like which ones?
Leptin and ghrelin, they control your appetite. Leptin tells you when you're full, and ghrelin makes you feel hungry.
Right.
When you're sleep deprived, leptin goes down and ghrelin goes up.
So you're basically hungrier and craving more food.
Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster.
And lack of sleep also makes you less likely to want to exercise.
It's a vicious cycle. It all comes back to prioritizing sleep.
So important. It's not just about feeling rested. It's crucial for supporting our fat-burning goals and making healthier choices.
You got it. And the same goes for stress management.
Oh yeah, stress is a killer.
Chronic stress messes with your hormones too, leading to more cortisol and potentially weight gain.
So finding healthy ways to manage stress is super important.
Absolutely. Exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, whatever works for you.
It's about creating a lifestyle that supports our well-being on all levels.
Exactly. Physically and mentally.
All right. The podcast had some practical tips for incorporating these fat-burning foods into our diets.
Yeah, they did. One that stood out to me was meal prepping.
Meal prepping. Classic.
It's so simple, but it can make a huge difference.
I'm a big fan of meal prepping myself.
It takes the guesswork out of it, makes healthy eating so much easier.
What else did they recommend?
They talked about choosing healthy snacks and having them ready to go.
Makes sense.
That way, when those cravings hit, you have a healthy option within reach.
It's like setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. And they also talked about using spices.
Spices, yes.
Not only do they add flavor, but they can also have health benefits.
Like what?
Many spices have anti-inflammatory properties.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like a bonus.
And it's a great way to make your meals more interesting.
It's not about feeling deprived. It's about finding ways to make healthy eating enjoyable.
Absolutely. And finally, they emphasized smart drinks.
Like what?
Green tea, black coffee, water infused with fruits or herbs.
Instead of sugary sodas and juices.
Exactly. It's about making those small swaps that support your goals without sacrificing flavor.
It's all about finding those small changes that make a big difference in the long run.
You got it.
I love how this all comes back to empowering ourselves.
Taking control of our health.
It's inspiring.
It is. And remember, it's a journey.
Not a destination.
There will be ups and downs, but the key is to keep learning, keep experimenting.
And find what works best for you.
Exactly.
And be kind to ourselves along the way.
Always be kind to yourself.
All right, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, any final thoughts for our listeners?
I would say remember that you are in control. You have the power to make choices that support your health and well-being.
Love that.
It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Celebrate those small victories.
Exactly. Keep moving forward.
Those are wise words. And remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
We've learned so much about these fat-burning foods, and now we can put that knowledge into action.
Time to take charge.
We'll be right back to wrap up this episode and leave you with some final food for thought. We're back and ready to wrap up our fat-burning foods journey.
Time to tie it all together.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely not. What works for one person might not work for another.
It's all about finding what fits your body and lifestyle.
Exactly. It's about personalization.
And that's why understanding the science is so important.
Knowledge is power. The more you know, the better choices you can make.
Right. It's about ditching those fad diets
Yeah, those never work long term.
and embracing a more sustainable approach.
It's not about deprivation, it's about nourishing your body,
Love that. It's about a lifestyle that supports your well-being
mind and body.
and that can look different for everyone.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it.
Before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Don't get discouraged if you don't see results right away.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Be patient with yourself, celebrate the small wins,
Focus on the progress.
and make those changes you can actually stick with.
It's so easy to get caught up in that quick fix mentality.
But real change takes time and effort.
And remember, it's not just about the number on the scale.
It's about so much more than that.
It's about feeling good, having energy, living a healthy life.
Feeling your best from the inside out.
Absolutely. And finding joy in the process.
Enjoy those delicious, healthy foods. Move your body. Find what feels good for you.
So, to recap, we've busted some myths about fat-burning foods, learned the science, and really emphasized a holistic approach.
Not just nutrition, but exercise, sleep, stress management, self-care, the whole package.
You got it. Remember, knowledge is power.
And you have the tools to make healthy choices.
You're in control of your journey.
That's right.
On that note, we'll leave you with this. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep listening to your body.
You've got this.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into fat-burning foods.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those flames burning bright.